I think the influence of this generation of the 90s almost began to decline by 99 or 2000. And what we now have today, to bring it up to date, is a really very difficult situation for director-driven cinema. I think it's difficult in Europe. I think it's difficult in America. I think we have a new conservative business because of all the economic problems in the world. The distributors are terrified of anything that might not be the formula movie for the business. And here's the ultimate irony of this long explanation: the most daring, adventurous, experimental movie of the year is a $200 million Hollywood blockbuster called Inception, because what Inception has proven is that everybody that thinks they know what young people want to see, all of these conservative business people who will tell you that the young people only want comic book movies and they have no attention span and they don't really want to focus on something literate, and they won't pay attention because they don't have the mind to pay attention for more than 1 second. It's a 2.5-hour movie that you have to watch like this every second to pay attention, and young people are going and watching it over and over again. It breaks all of the rules, and it's a huge success. It's interesting that it has more of an independent spirit, I think, than a lot of independent movies. So there's the entire history of the world in 5 minutes.
I just wanted to add something, asking to Paul Duran. Well, what do you figure yourself? Is it a danger for you if tomorrow morning a studio man will knock your door asking to you to make a movie for them? I mean, is it the tycoons are really a danger for an independent filmmaker, or it could be maybe an expectation from yourself?
Yeah, we basically we made this film. We just make with a small community of people that will work for very little, and we make our films completely outside of any system or any real financing. So yeah, I have talked to some people from production companies, and they generally, I've talked to them about a couple of scripts that I have, and they do generally want me to change them to fit more into sort of the standard structure of what the kind of film that they want to make. That's been my experience so far. They like the sense of humor and they like the characters, but they usually want me to change it a little bit to fit more into the kind of film that they want to make, which is a more conventional. They tend to want to keep making the same movie over and over. That's been my experience so far. When I wrote this script, after about a year of trying to make this other film that is a less conventional film, it's got a less conventional narrative structure, and we raised a little bit of money, but not enough to actually shoot the film, and it was really disappointing. So I really wanted to make something kind of fun. So I just sort of started writing this script that was originally going to be a short film that I could make with friends. And I wrote it in about a month. It turned into a feature really easily. And when I was almost done writing it, I realized that the story of the food stand very much mirrored the experience that we had just been through in trying to make this other film. And it's very similar. I think that a person starting a food stand, a small business, is very similar to someone trying to make an independent film.
Working with like a studio, if you're asking them, to look at your script, and they asked, they advise like changes, and obviously you don't want to change it. Do you ever fear that maybe, they could be right and that you should change it, or are you always happy with your own gut instinct?
No, I definitely think that I'm always open to feedback, and I'm not totally against making things with a conventional narrative structure. I mean, The Happy Poet actually has a pretty conventional narrative structure, but I feel like you can still make original, unique films that work well within the conventional narrative structure. But the film I was talking about before, it just didn't quite work. I actually tried to change it quite a bit, and I could never quite get it to work. So it was just never how I imagined that film, and it doesn't really seem to work trying to sort of squeeze it into a really conventional narrative structure. But yeah, I think a lot of times I'm not against trying to make things work with somebody who wants to finance a film. I mean, if I think I can still make a good original film that they're willing to finance, I'm not totally against that. If I can make it work, but I couldn't really make it work with this other film. And I think a lot of times they probably, especially if they've made other films, they probably have good points, and it's also the fact is that it's a business, and they want to make something that's going to make money. So, but in Europe, I think you're able to make films that are not necessarily just financed by people that are purely trying to make money. It seems like there's more funding for art films and things like that.